Welcome to the Builders of Authority podcast, a show committed to helping you build authority for your brand. In the realm of business and personal branding, authority stands as a cornerstone. Authority isn't built overnight, it's built over time. So join us as we build something remarkable together. And now, here's your host, Adam McChesney.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Builders of Authority podcast. Quick reminder before we hop into today's episode that we are continuing to grow our Builders of Authority community online. Builders of Authority is committed to helping you become the authority in your industry with personal branding. We have our free Facebook group that you can join by typing in Builders of Authority into the search bar. In that group, there's daily content, weekly live trainings every single Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central, and much more. We have our Builders of Authority Mastermind, which includes a private Facebook group, 2 live weekly trainings and sessions, as well as access to our personal branding course and much more. One-to-one personal branding coaching and consulting is also available. Reach out to us at buildauthority.co or send me a DM on social media and let's have a conversation. Our next BOA live event is happening on Wednesday, June 26th here in downtown St. Louis, same place as last time. Tickets are now on sale, so go over to buildauthority.co/event to grab your ticket before it's too late. I'm honored to have today's guest on the podcast with me. I was honestly shocked that over the past couple of years, I hadn't had him on yet when I went to go ask him, but at least now we are actually making this happen. I've had the pleasure of knowing this guy for coming up on 3 years, and I can say he's one of the people that instantly made my life better, and we're going to dive into some of that stuff, his background, all that good stuff here today. I've gotten the chance to know him a lot better over the last 2 years and even spend time with his family, his amazing family, on a couple of different trips. I'm excited to dive into the podcast with him because he's a wealth of knowledge. My guest today is Kevin Oldham. He is the founder and CEO of Diffactory, co-founder at VUCA Fit, and investor at the Smoothie Shop Supplements Franchise. He's also the co-host of the Hole in the Soul podcast. And are you still hosting the Franchise My Business podcast?
I'm not. I took a hiatus after 110 episodes.
Well, there we go. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, it is kind of funny. We haven't hopped on podcasts together, so it's this will be fun.
I'm excited, man. So I know you really well. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a dad. I'm a above average skateboarder. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, follower of Christ, and I do some pretty cool business stuff to try to help people live their intentional lives through the businesses that I've chosen to invest in or build. And so I've been an entrepreneur for a decade now, and I'm still trying to figure all of these things out day by day. You know, it's this constant evolution of the entrepreneur, which I'm sure that's mostly what we're going to talk about on this show. But I love making people's days better. I love making people's days better. I love being a source of light and strength in the world. My infinite commitment is to be the filament in the lives of the people I touch. And so that's my true north that I use to go through the world and try to just literally make people happy that they encountered me and I made their lives better. That's really my big goal through my body of work.
Love it. And so as we're talking about like commitment and all the different stuff as far as what you're involved with it, like VUCA Fit, talk to us about like how your entrepreneurial journey has kind of transformed. Because I know you've been in a variety of different stuff, but I know the story. I know it's really cool and powerful, but talk to me a little bit about like what that whole journey has been like for you. Yeah.
I mean, my entrepreneurship journey really, I was the chief marketing officer of a global company. I had a really good job. I'm a little bit older, so I'm 49 years old, right? And I've been in marketing, and specifically, I have been in digital marketing since the beginning of the internet. Like my first internet marketing job was an SEO guy for a VC-funded company called planetalumni.com. And Google was one of many search engines back then. And we were trying to figure out how to gamify them. And guess what? Here we are, 3 decades later, still trying to figure out the same thing. But what I realized through the process of working for others was that I think I have authority issues. I think that's really what it is, man. Like just fitting in the box has never really been my thing. As I've looked back, when I look back at skating, it's a very kind of, rebellious type of activity. Skateboarders are kind of rebellious types of individuals. And that's my core. And so when I became a dad and I'd been working for other people and I got to the top of my profession, I looked around and I was like, I think I was 40. And I'm like, is this it? Is this really what we're supposed to do? Is this my life? Is this an intentional life? And I realized it wasn't. And so through our faith and the undying support of my wife, who's my rock when it comes to this crazy entrepreneurial journey, we decided to take that leap when we had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And that leap was me going from making really good money and walking away from a company that we had just helped recapitalize to the tune of $30 million. And during that recapitalization event, I was going to be an owner. And I walked away. And I told my CEO, I said, hey, if I call in a decade or two and I see you guys to exit, don't ever tell me what I walked away from. Don't ever. And if he called me today, and I've thought about him today. I've actually been on his website today. He's on my heart. Like, they're doing some mergers and acquisitions. It's cool. It's called United Real Estate. It's a top 10 real estate brand, Inc. 500. Great company. And I look back and I'm like, man, I'd still be doing that because they haven't exited. And I'd still be working for somebody else. And so the cost to me was minimal because I got so much joy the past decade out of being dad, out of being a husband who was a little bit more invested in my family than I would have been if I would have had a job. And so that's kind of what I've been up to like the past decade, right? The transformation of Kevin as an entrepreneur, as a human, as a man, as a leader in my family and my community. It's been a journey with way more downs than ups. I'm not going to lie. Way more heartaches than celebrations, right? It's just been a lot of fortitude building activities.
And so you mentioned a lot more downs than ups. You mentioned walking away from money for what I would refer to as a better lifestyle or living a life by design, whatever terminology you want to do it. I guess obviously you kind of walked into like what that process looked like for you, but like what ultimately was the deciding factor if you had to like break it down to a couple of different things? Like, who did you have to become to be okay? Because I assume when you got into entrepreneurship, as a lot of us entrepreneurs do, we're like, we just want to get to the top of the mountain. We want to make all the money. We want to do all that stuff. And then you're in the thick of it, right? And then you decide like, hey, this is not what I want. How did you come to that conclusion?
That was easy, dude. And you hit the nail on the head. And I joke about this with my dad, who's one of my mentors. He's 80 years old. We joke about this all the time. So when I started, I had an ego.
Yeah.
I had a big ego. I had a really, and I rightfully earned, right? Yeah. Earned. I got to launch Virgin Mobile here in the United States with Best Buy. Best Buy Advertising was my client. I have an award from the VP of Best Buy Advertising in my basement. They were my client. They were paying us for launching Virgin Mobile in the United States and making them look like rock stars in all of the movie theaters and AMC. I've been in Daimler Chrysler's headquarters selling Jeep, multi-million-dollar brands. I've worked with the biggest brands on the planet. And so I had an ego coming into this. My team that I had built at my last company won 50 awards from USA Today over a 7-year period for marketing excellence. Like, I had accolades. I'd been on the cover of KC Business Magazine as an emerging leader in KC. And so I came in with confidence. Okay. And I came in having not lost in business yet. I came in not having lost, dude. Like, I was always employee of the year. I was always the top performer. I was always leading, building, and was a very high achiever. Okay. In other people's ecosystems.
Yep.
And then I left and I started this company in the basement with half a client. I like to say half a client because it was a buddy of mine who had an FU plan. He wanted a website ready to go behind a password so that when he left his law firm and started his own business, he could do it. He could text me and say, hey, dude, I did it. And he did that one day, and it's awesome. He's killing it. But the first 6 months of business, I almost crashed the plane. My wife was very unhappy with me because I was working like 70 hours a week. I was not mentally healthy, and I wasn't present. And she said, Oldham, and you know my wife, I mean, she's no BS with me. She goes, Oldham, if this is what you being an entrepreneur is like, I'd rather you go back and get another job as a CMO of another company. And I said, got it. Because for me, getting a job wasn't an option. It was not an option. Going and getting a job was not an option. I'm like, okay, got it. And I recalibrated very quickly. We got smaller very quickly. Still, like month 2 was one of our best months ever of this business. As soon as I hung out my shingle, people were like, ooh, and I'm like, uh-oh, what just happened? And I didn't really have a team. You know, I had a couple contractors, right? And so I've had to be intentional about being okay, leaving chips on the table, being okay, missing out on some potential opportunities for the sake of having what is important to me, right? So what's important to me isn't a Lamborghini. Would I like one? And if I could afford one, would I buy one? Actually, I wouldn't buy a Lamborghini, I'd buy a Ferrari. Absolutely, right? But what's more important than all of that stuff for me at this stage in life is making sure my kids leave the house with freaking great character. They're great people, that my marriage not only survives that process, but thrives through it, right? And that my integrity stays intact 100% of the time. That's what matters. And sometimes those things aren't the most profitable things to do. None of those are the most profitable things to do. None of those things are the ways that you scale fast. None of those ways are the things that you see on social media. But I think that most of those things are the things that people really want. They really want it deep. And this is where my wisdom and age does play in. Starting my business at 40 years old, I've had a lot of experiences of things I liked and I didn't like in life. And so therefore, I've been able to be a little bit more deliberate because I have less time about how I structure my business and my personal and everything in between.
And one of the reasons why I asked that question is selfish matters.
I know, because you're behind me. You've got a young one, right? You see what's ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where, like, the guest I just had on before this, I was like, hey, like, there's different like benefits to obviously hosting a podcast, but like being able to ask the questions and understand from people that are going through or have gone through the stuff that you're going through in business and in life, I think is super impactful. But I think for me, I got into business not necessarily like for the ego or out of ego, but it was out of desperation for freedom. What I thought freedom was versus what I think freedom today are two completely different things. And so what I used to chase is completely different from what I am chasing now. And I think a lot of people find that out far too late. And so it's awesome to kind of hear how this all played into where you're at right now, which is what I want to kind of dive into. So you've kind of understood all of that stuff. You've had multiple businesses. And then you decide, hey, I'm also going to bring in this new venture with VUCA Fit into the fold. How did you come to that conclusion? Like, I know a little bit of the backstory on it, but like a lot of people, I think, struggle with understanding, should I stay in my lane? Should I add something else? What makes sense? How do I vet different opportunities? And will this opportunity get me to where I'm wanting to go?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that speaks to my body of work and what I've been doing the past 10 years, not just VUCA Fit, right? So I own a marketing company. It's not a marketing company. Actually, we took the letters off you'd love it, dude. I've got pictures. I'm missing them to you. We took the letters off the windows yesterday. It said digital marketing. We've reinvented ourselves. My core vessel that allows me to go and find brands to build and invest in has really never been a marketing company, but that's the label we threw on ourselves, right? And it was a huge disservice. Like, we lost so much money on uncapitalized opportunities by positioning ourselves that way. Like, we're really growth consultants, and a lot of it's outside of marketing that we've always been doing. So I took that stuff down. And when I did that, I realized I took a step back to where I was a decade ago in the whiteboard in my home office basement, or 9 years ago. And no, it actually was a decade ago when I started mapping out the business model before I left. And I believe the following to be true, and I think we've proven it, that when you own a business that is in the business of helping people grow, you get exposed to a lot of different opportunities. You get to talk to a lot of cool people. You get to see a lot of problems. You get to solve a lot of problems. And then you see a lot of problems that you didn't solve, but that maybe you could have, right? And in some of those cases, you see a brand that either is listing, it's kind of like it could use some love and some elbow grease. It's like a fixer-upper. Or you see a brand that maybe doesn't exist that needs to exist for some reason. Like you feel like you're compelled to bring that brand to market. And my original hypothesis of how I wanted to create a life that me and my family really, really enjoyed, and that we had a little bit more control over than most people, most Americans, was to create kind of a small family office, a small portfolio of assets that we owned and we invested in, people and or brands that we invested in and that fit into our value system. Okay. And so in this process, I do a lot of franchising. I've got a franchise background, never been a franchisee. I've always been a franchisor. That's what my last company did. That's what we did for, 7-8 years. And so we started talking to franchisors as marketing potential partners, right? And came across a deal, a chain of smoothie shops here in Kansas City that me and my attorney, we bought, we franchised, we repositioned the company, we've completely turned it around. The bad news is we just bought it like at a time right before there was a global pandemic. So our timing kind of sucked. But it fits into my body of work. It's in franchising. It's got a great brand. It helps people live their lives. I've got a phenomenal partner. The business runs itself and it's great. And I'm super proud of it. Right. So it's like, all right, this is off and running and it's just going to grow organically. Well, then I'm going through life looking for more. I'm looking for more. I'm looking for other ways to help grow my marketing company. I'm looking for solutions. And I'm out in the world. I'm joining masterminds. I'm talking to people. I'm widening my circle, basically. I've widened my social circle. Because getting back to that age thing, social media for me sucks. As a 49-year-old, it drives me insane. I don't want to do it. It's painful to me, okay? And I know it goes against everything that you talk about, and that's why I love the fact that there's guys like you trying to get guys like me to be like, dude, I know it's painful, but you should do it. And so through the power of social media, I meet this guy, Jose Bolaños. We end up meeting. We end up getting on a call together, and I end up hearing about this stuff called VUCA, which is a military analogy for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It was designed to describe the conditions on the ground, on the planet after the end of the Cold War. We live in a VUCA world. And that was just a term that the military used, but that my mindset coach, Jose Bolaños, who I ended up hiring in Nicaragua, incorporated into his practice, his 20-year practice of helping entrepreneurs and leaders figure out how to navigate life, how to train for life. And it's just a label we put on it. So you got VUCA over here. It's a label that we put on the stuff that life offers us. Fit is something I came up with. So when I learned this whole VUCA concept, and Jose would always be like, we're training people to be VUCA capable. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know can we curse on this podcast, or is this a PG one?
No, you're good.
Do you have the explicit thing on here? Because I've been bleeping myself out, but when I get passionate, sometimes I curse, and you know that.
Go ahead.
All right. So I start going through this process and I'm like, screw being capable. Capable is like the bare minimum of life. Hey, I'm capable of building a wall. No, dude, I want to be an expert in building a wall. I want to be fitness, right? And so I started thinking to myself, I'm training to be VUCA fit. And this is something I always told myself internally. So then Jose is at a pivotal point in his life. And I have a conversation with him, and he's employed by somebody. And he's like, I'm thinking about leaving. And I said, dude, if there's an opportunity for me to help you with the business side, because that's not what you like to do, I'm here to help. And I helped him with his coaching stuff. I was like, hey, our number one job with you as a new entrepreneur is to make sure that, you preserve your income. And then we started reflecting on this shirt, my unbreakable shirt that I'm wearing under this. And I started thinking about this shirt that I earned from my mindset coach by going through his program, by learning to be mentally strong, to be VUCA fit. And I was like, man, I feel like a superhero when I wear this shirt because I did the work. It's a reminder. I feel like it's a coat of armor. I wear it a lot. It's getting all wore out because I feel strong in it. I'm wearing it under this on purpose. You guys can't see it, but I'm wearing it because it makes me feel strong. I earned it. I earned it by doing 2.5 years of hard work. That's 104 ice baths every Sunday. That is losing weight. That is becoming a black belt in martial arts. That is recommitting to my faith. That is being able to be more physiologically strong, mentally strong, spiritually strong. It means I've been training for life. And that's why that shirt mattered to me. And I said, dude, let's go sell some of those shirts. I'm like, well, hold on. We can't sell that shirt. That shirt's got to be earned. You can't just sell that freaking shirt. I'm like, oh gosh. And it just metastasized. It blew out of control. Two creative dudes get together. Next thing you know, we're writing a book. We've got some courses. We've got an e-commerce store. We've got a group of guys we're helping go through a 6-month curriculum called Dojo, helping them figure out why they're on this big rock. We're doing retreats. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this actually is going to turn into a business, a brand. We've got to give it life. We got to invest more. And so that's really where we are. We literally have just launched this thing. Super, super quiet launch, getting our first folks through a process and figuring out what they need and how we can best serve them. And then for backing that up with our podcast, shameless plug right there, The Hole in the Soul, where we get to talk about this stuff. We get to talk about how him and I are both in recovery from alcoholism. We get to talk about teen suicide. We get to talk about parenting, all the stuff that's life that impacts us as business leaders. It impacts us as humans. Because without the tools to manage all that shit, all the success and all the money in the bank account does not matter. And that's what I've realized in my second act in life here. And that's what VUCA Fit is. VUCA Fit is designed to help more people benefit from the training that you've been through, because you've been one of Jose's students that I've been through. I'm no longer a student. I got fired as soon as I became his business partner. That was smart. He's like, you're fired. I'm like, great, because I was getting ready to fire you. We can't be, we got to have a clear line. We're partners, right? I'll go find somebody else to help me with my head trash. Yeah. And we want to help people with that, because I think you know this, man, the mental health aspect of entrepreneurship is probably the hardest aspect.
Yeah.
And it takes people down. It took Tony Hsieh down, the founder of Zappos. It's taken down so many brilliant minds who've taken their own lives, because we're all a little bit off in the rocker if we decide to start a business. And then you add all this additional pressure, and sometimes it feels like you're not enough, and some people make that ultimate decision. And my reason for doing VUCA Fit, I said, we can end up saving one person's life. As a matter of fact, I know we're going to. If we have one message, one little soundbar, if somebody listens to our podcast and they may make a different decision, that's worth it. Oh yeah, it's worth it. And so that's the fire in my belly with this, man. Is I want to help the mental aspect of what's happening in our country, particularly with the group of people that I associate with, which are high performers in the business world.
Love it. Yeah. Having been through Jose's program, like the transformation of when I started versus ultimately where I ended up getting to and where I'm at right now, like I couldn't fathom trying to go through what I've gone through this year and even last year, like without a lot of the framework and the foundations on like understanding things. Because as you mentioned, you can have all the freaking success in the world, but if you're not whole and you're not like good as an individual, doesn't really matter. I've made a lot of freaking money and been not good. And I've been where I'm at like right now and transitioning and doing a bunch of crap and trying to figure out like the next layer of stuff, not making the same money I had previously been making, and not 100% like perfect or okay by any means. It's always a work in progress, but it's helping me get to that next level. Right. So I can't speak enough about like the power of what you guys are doing together. And I'm excited. I love both of you kind of coming together. It's just really cool to be able to support you guys and to continue to see you guys take this stuff to the next level. The one question, and I'm glad you kind of brought it up about brand in throughout the whole process, like, talk to me a little bit about like the power of branding, because you said, hey, when I'm looking to bring something into my ecosystem, my time, energy, resources, whatever, the umbrella of what you're building, I'm looking for a brand. that might be the fixer-upper, maybe a hidden brand, no brand there, but we're going to build it. Like, what is the importance behind a good brand or a phenomenal brand? And like, how have you seen brands like take off over the last couple of years?
Yeah, this is a hilarious question for me because internet marketing is always, the puck's always moving and everybody's talking about brand right now. And you're way into brand. I'm like, man, brand's been around for 100 years and it's mattered.
Yeah.
Like, it's not new. It's not new. And as a matter of fact, that's really how I chopped my teeth in early marketing. It was all brand, dude. I'm giving out, I'm making sure that samples are given out for Uncle Ben's rice bowls and all these big consumer packaged goods. Is my first job out of college. I'm working with AMC Theaters and Coca-Cola and BMW and Jeep and Daimler Chrysler are my customers, and Verizon and Virgin Mobile. These were all brand plays, man. They were all brand plays. Everything was brand. Really up until I started my marketing company, I had to start doing more service, like marketing services, right? Because that's the way I could just, I'm not a branding guy. Okay. I mean, that's the other thing. I've been in brand marketing a lot, but I'm not a branding strategist. Like, that's a totally different skill set than what I was born with. But when I'm evaluating brands, and this is hilarious, here's my investment thesis right here. When we bought a chain of smoothie shops, we bought the Smoothie Shop. As in, my domain is thesmoothishop.com. My company is called The Smoothie Shop and Supplements. So when I tell people I own the smoothie shop, and they'll be like, which one? I'm like, The Smoothie Shop. Like, it's it. Like, that's it. We are the Smoothie Shop. We're not some cute name that's made up. We're the Smoothie Shop. It's simple. You know what the hell we sell. There's no ambiguity. Okay.
Yeah.
VUCA Fit, a little bit different. I have to explain that brand. I'm still trying to figure out how to explain this, bridge this military analogy and everything. Like, that's a work in progress. But Diffactory means nothing to you and to most people outside looking in. But you know what it means to my team and our mission? It's core to what we do almost a decade later, because it's a combination of the words differentiation and factory. As we're going through the reboot and the launch of Diffactory 2.0, not as a marketing company, but as revenue growth consultants, the whole message is still the same. In the most commoditized markets, I know, and I am trained highly by a phenomenal business strategist. I'm the CEO of my last company. I got to study under him directly for 7.5 years. Business strategy and differentiation is how we killed it at our last companies. And that's what I have staked the last chapter of my career on. And last chapter being basically from the age that I was 30 until the day I die. I know this core principle. In the most commoditized markets, if you differentiate your product and you deliver great service, you can win. Full stop. And you don't have to play the price game. And then factory, differentiation and factory. There's a methodical way to do it. You just don't pull things out of your posterior and start. There's a way to go through figuring out how to differentiate a business. It could be something small. It can be something big. But you go do that and you communicate it correctly to the right people, you're going to freaking win. I don't care if you're selling insurance. I don't care what it is. It could be the most boring business in the world. And I love these boring businesses. I'm the fractional CMO and have been for 6 years of a large independent medical practice here in Kansas City. Since I've been working with them, they've introduced 4 new cash-based lines of business, differentiation in their business. 4, because they're bound by insurance on the other stuff, right? And they're like, we want to make money. We can't make money if we're working for insurance companies, but we can make money when we open our own pharmacy, when we have cannabis card prescriptions or whatever you call it, when we have a cash-based line of medical type of like concierge medicine. And then what's the other one? The HFM zone. They have these new things and they're all differentiators and they're killing it because they're playing a different game, but they're also playing the game they need to play. They're taking care of you when you got sickness. And so they were like one of my favorite case studies. I'm like, you can take medical, doctor, family medicine, and you can differentiate the hell out of it. And you can build a defensible market position through it over time if you find the right people. And that's really what we've been up to. And so the brand aspect every brand I have makes sense in one way or another. And every brand that I have has a personal passion, a calling in my heart where I feel like it's a vessel that can help people improve their lives. Our smoothies, the transformations that are taking place of people losing their weight or making a better meal choice and not going to McDonald's and grabbing something from us is why I do it. It's why my partner does it. VUCA Fit, dude, we're not making money yet. We're 5 figures deep on investment on this thing. I don't care right now. I don't care about that because I believe in the mission and what we're going to do and who we're going to help. And I believe that it is going to be this very large thing that can help the right people that care about it. And that's what matters to me, right? That's what matters. And it will become a global brand one way or another. I know it. And I'm excited about it. It's the only logo I've ever trademarked in my entire career.
Love it, man. Well, it's a lot of good information, especially on the importance of brand, but like using examples of the different types of brands you've been a part of or currently a part of and things like that. I think it's super beneficial because as a lot of people mentioned, it's like people ask me all the time, well, I don't have a personal brand or when do I start a personal brand? It's like, it's not new. You already have it. Whether you know it or not, it's what people say about you or your business. For example, your business brand when you're not in the room. It's not just the logo.
Yep.
It's everything that encompasses what people think about you when you're not in the room. Yep. So, Kevin, as we're kind of wrapping up this episode, I'm super excited to listen to this one back. I thought it was a great conversation. Any last pieces of advice to share with the audience that maybe we didn't touch on today, but you're like, man, if I could share this with the audience, it's going to change their life?
Yeah. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, because I assume that's mostly who your listeners are, or you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, probably the biggest thing that I've learned over the past 9 years of doing this is that you need to surround yourself with people that will champion you when you're not doing well. Everybody wants to be your champion when you're doing well. Everybody wants to be your friend, right? And you made a post about having a small circle. I have a wide social circle and it's very narrow on the people who actually freaking know me and get to tap into my demons, the things that keep me up at night, all of those things. I don't share those with everybody. I've shared a lot of them with you. And you're in that circle, right? And I know the times that I've sucked at entrepreneurship, I've gone into I've isolated myself. I haven't reached out to people that I know care about me and that I care about. And it's a mutual thing too, by the way. It's a mutual thing, right? Like almost everybody that, like if I have a bad day today, I know there's about 5 guys that I could text and be like, hey, can we just hop on a quick call? Like I'm in the ditch. And one of those 5 guys is going to be available and be like, yeah, dude, let's talk. And I've got that same thing going with others. And I have that with you. I'm like, dude, you know that if you text me and you said, I've got an emergency, I'm going to like figure out how to make that happen right now. Right. And that's been my superpower for entrepreneurship is subsiding my ego, asking for help, building an intentional group of people that can help me with my blind sides, particularly when things aren't going well, because that is a constant in business. There's going to be things that don't go well. And sometimes figuring that shit out by yourself is the wrong answer.
Man, I needed to hear that. And I'm glad that you shared it because I know there's somebody else that's listening that needs to hear this as well. So, man, this was an awesome episode. Really appreciate you coming on. Always great chatting with you. Where can people stay connected with you and learn about all the things that you're doing online?
Probably the best thing to do is just go find me on social media. And then you're going to find my link tree. And in my link tree is my current projects that I'm working on. Okay. But if you want to find me on Linktree, you can just do your link tree and then it's KCKO. That's the best way. Or you can go to kevinoldham.live and all my links are there as well.
Awesome. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes. Kevin, thanks again for coming on, man. I appreciate you.
Hey, likewise. Always a pleasure.
And thank you again to the audience for tuning in to today's episode. Make sure you go leave a 5-star review. 5-star reviews are making we're making a big push for 5-star reviews here this year, and it definitely helps move the needle. Share the content on social media. Tag Kevin. That way more people can follow Kevin, understand a little bit more about what he's doing with all his different ventures and things like that. And remember, authority isn't built overnight. It's built over time. We'll see you next week.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We sure do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. This way you'll get notifications as new episodes become available. If you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. We sure do appreciate it. Until next time, friends.